Welcome to Tales by Abilene.
In 1879, the Congo River bore witness to one of history's darkest invasions. The Congo River chronicles Matundu's story. A misty dawn on the Congo River, birds cry, water lapping at wooden boats, a small village in a clearing, smoke from cooking fires. The air is thick and heavy. Matundu.
I was a boy by the riverbank when the white men first came. My father whispered that these were the envoy of a stranger, Henry Stanley, hired by the King of Belgium to build posts along our river. In the whisper of the forest, I heard that in 1879, Stanley had set out to map the Congo for that king. By 1882, he had built trading stations upriver, signing treaties with chiefs who didn't know they were giving away their land. At first, they seemed polite. They gave our children carved wooden toys and traded cloth and beads for ivory and food, singing songs about a distant king who cared about us. My elders ate grilled goats offered by a kindly officer named Binja, who spoke about progress and civilization. The earth smelled of smoke. The night air was heavy with hope and dread. My father told me to be careful, and I promised I would. But by daylight, they showed us saws and axes. We were ordered to help build their forts. They said the king would repay us. For days, men from our village cleared the forest for a post on the riverbank. We cut down giant trees whose leaves blotted the sky. The air filled with sawdust and fear. We worked until sundown. The river now was ringed with timber walls and strange foreign colors. My father stood beside the officer as he measured our land on their strange maps. I pressed myself against the hot wall, too small to carry logs, but my hands trembled. That night, lanterns in their camp glowed long after our cooking fires went out. I pressed my ear to our hut's door. There was shouting outside. Someone called my name. A gunshot rang out. Then a silence so deep it drowned out the cries of the forest. Fear grew in my chest. Something had gone terribly wrong. After those first years, nothing was the same. By the early 1890s, the Congo Free State was becoming notorious for how our people were treated. Forced into rubber and ivory quotas, beaten and mutilated if they fell behind. Rumors called them the Force Publique, a private army ordered by King Leopold himself. The officers were white, but the soldiers were African, men taken from other lands or orphaned boys, all trained to enforce the rubber quotas with fear. They demanded rubber. We had to gather it from vines twisted through the jungle. I recall standing with a cut liana in hand, white sap dripping on my arms. Every day I had to slash the vines and smear that sticky latex over my skin like war paint. When the rubber dried in the sun, they made us peel it off, pulling chunks of our flesh with it. It felt like the forest itself was ripping me apart, drawing blood and tears. The punishment for failing the quota was horror. We heard of entire villages set ablaze or wiped out as warnings. Our neighbors showed us baskets of smoked, severed hands, trophies of how many bullets had been fired into heads. Soldiers forced us at gunpoint to kneel as they cut away our harvests. Then they laughed and beat us if we had even a scrap missing. The officers demanded proof for every bullet they fired, one hand for each shot. My own uncle lost a hand that way. By then we whispered the truth. Our home was cursed by the blood robber. One day, my father hid the ivory away. The soldiers found out and asked that he returns it. My father refused and was threatened. I turned away. I could not watch. By nightfall, that same day, I crept to the river's edge with my brother. Across the dark water, patrols were moving like shadows. The forest around us grew quiet as we waited. We only had moments before dawn, and I knew they were coming for us next. We didn't go back home that night. My younger brother Kaba clung to me. We crawled into the underbrush, mosquitoes whining, sharp twigs caught in our feet. I'd seen what they did to boys like him. I couldn't let him be taken. Behind us, our village lay quiet, too quiet. No drums, no laughter, only the low creak of wooden paddles cutting through water. Then we heard it, shouting, a scream, then two gunshots. My blood turned cold. I wanted to run, but I couldn't leave. We crawled closer, just enough to see the flames. They were burning our huts, one by one. The force publique came in waves. Their white officers pointed and ordered, while African soldiers, some our neighbors, some stolen from distant tribes, dragged out the elders. My father was among them. I covered Kaba's eyes, but I saw it all. They beat him with the butt of a rifle, then demanded to know where the ivory was hidden. He didn't speak. So they raised a machete. But then, chaos. A spear came flying from the forest. One of the officers fell. Shouts erupted. More spears, rocks. A dozen rebels stormed from the trees. Bare-chested men with red paint on their arms and rage in their eyes. It was the Mejili brothers. I'd heard their names whispered before. The last hunters of the old kingdom. They had refused to pay rubber taxes. For months, they had vanished into the forest. The ambush worked, but only for minutes. The soldiers fired wildly into the dark. I grabbed Kaba's hand and we ran until our lungs burned and our legs gave out. We collapsed near the river, gasping, and then, just as dawn broke, I heard footsteps. Someone was coming. We had no more strength to run. I pulled Kaba behind a fallen log, heart pounding like thunder in my ears. A shadow moved through the trees. And then, a machete blade glinted in the rising sun. It stopped just above my face. A voice spoke, gravelly, low, and unfamiliar. Get up, boy. We need your help. I looked up and saw a man with tribal scars and a necklace made of rubber. A rebel, but behind him was someone I never expected to see again. Kaba gasped. Mama! She was thinner, her eyes sunken, but it was her. Our mother. I thought she had died 2 years ago during the second rubber harvest raids. We buried a piece of our wrapper beneath the Iroko tree. But now, there she stood behind the rebel, covered in dirt, alive. Kaba ran to her. She caught him, held him like a soul had come home, but her eyes never left me. They took me to Boma, made me walk on their roads. I escaped when the rains came. She looked past me, to the rebel with the rubber necklace. This is Mumbala. He saved me. Mumbala studied me in silence. Your father was brave. We couldn't save him, but we can still save your people. He led us through hidden trails, past abandoned outposts, through forests where trees whispered of murdered souls. Finally, we arrived at an encampment, deep in the forest, camouflaged by leaves and silence. Dozens of escapees lived there, women weaving rope, men sharpening spears, children learning to signal with bird calls. They called themselves Mokili Yampepe, the kingdom of wind. No fences, no chains, just breath and spirit. We trained. We memorized officer patrol routes. We studied the weak spots, the supply boats, the gun caches, the rubber storerooms. Every beat of our feet on the forest floor became a drum of war. Kaba was only 11, but he could outclimb a monkey. They sent him to watch the paths. I was sent to map a Belgian station, the same one where they tortured my uncle. I swore I'd burn it down.
Thunder crackles over the canopy. The rebels prepare. Matundu.
On the seventh moon, the plan was set. Mumbala would lead the ambush. I was tasked with lighting the distraction fire near the armory. If it went well, we'd free 50 captives. If it failed, we'd all be hunted like dogs. I crouched beneath the wooden walls of the post. My torch was in one hand, in the other, the carved bone necklace my father gave me when I was a boy. Then I heard something, footsteps, behind me, too fast, too light for a soldier, too soon for the others. I turned and saw Kaba, his face pale. Matundu, he whispered, panting. They knew. Someone told them. Mumbala's walking into a trap. The torch in my hand flickered, the sky trembled with thunder, and suddenly a gunshot ripped through the air. Kaba's eyes widened. He staggered and fell. I held him, willing his eyes to stay open. His breath was shallow, lips pale. He tried to speak, but blood came out instead. Tell Mama, I wasn't scared. And then he was gone. I don't remember if I screamed. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. But the fire inside me, it woke up. I didn't light the decoy fire. I set the real one straight to the gunpowder hut. The flames roared like thunder gods had awakened. Explosions tore through the night. One, then another, then another. Screams followed. Confusion reigned. By the time the soldiers realized what had happened, Mumbala and the others were already in the compound, cutting chains, freeing prisoners. It was chaos. But in chaos, we found justice. I fought like I had nothing to lose, because I didn't. I saw the officer who took my uncle's hand. He begged. I didn't speak. I let the fire judge him. By sunrise, the station was ash. Only blackened logs and charred uniforms remained. We lost many, but we saved more. We buried Kaba near the river he loved, beneath a twisted vine tree. My mother placed a bone necklace beside him. She said, "We plant him like a seed. One day freedom will grow here." And so we kept fighting.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe!